You know what we actually did last year, and we didn't keep up with it as well as we wanted to, but it was still something fun to do. You know those like stupid little challenges that people put up on Facebook of like, oh, do this thing throughout the year, or like whatever. Well, we actually last year did. We have a mason jar, and we took and anytime anything good happened or anything like that, we wrote it down like with the date and what it was and put it in the jar.
Hmm.
And then half hour before the ball dropped, we just went through the jar and like read all the stuff. And it was like,
That's nice. I
you know,
like that. It sounds silly at first, but honestly, that would be a nice way to end the year.
and that's what it was. It was whenever she suggested it, I was like, this is stupid. And like some of the stuff I put in there was just like dumb. But then like after
It was like your Animal Crossing situation. Like I'm only gonna do this as a troll, and then at the end you're like, I actually enjoy this.
it wasn't that it's more so because like the original challenge was like literally one good thing that happened every single day, but like there's days where just nothing happens and you can't just like there were 3 pieces of paper that I wrote.
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm 39, and I can tell you if in a day nothing happens, that is a good thing right there. There would be plenty of cards in my mason jar that just said, like 127. 21. Nothing happened. Exclamation point. Happy face. Heart.
Yeah, there were like 3 of them that were like that, but like
Did not take off pajamas.
I mean that would be something that I'd put in there.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. Welcome back to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. We thank you for whatever reason you have chosen to listen to this. But I am not alone. Joining me as always,
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard, and welcome to the new year.
Yes, Happy New Year, everybody out there. Is this the first show of the new year? Yeah, this would be the first show of the new year.
Yes, it is.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody out there. But before we get into the crux of the show, we got to get into the credits. And that would be first, if you're watching this on YouTube, you've noticed some fancy original graphics, and those are provided by Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this and all of the shows here on Old Man Gaming are provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Sliders, and we thank him for that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the top of the show, the first segment. Probably our most favorite, and that is Fan Traction. That's where we, the co-hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We read out all the comments that you have posted in the certain various places. Sometimes we ask you questions, and we definitely use your comments to decide the Horrible Arena winners. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. We only got 2 comments on the YouTubes itself. Both were from, you know him, you gotta love him, Kev Too Tall. The first one, why do I feel like you used the chair cold open before? I swear I heard it before, referring to fart chair. To which I responded, well, we did not, but if you don't believe me, there is a video of every cold open ever as proof. And sly little plug here, last Tuesday, actually as a little celebration for the end of the year, I put together a compilation. It took me way more work than I thought I was going to. Of every cold open we have ever done for the podcast. All of them. Not including the news breaks. Those were kind of Logan's thing. But all of the just straight cold opens, there was, I think, 43 of them. I recorded them all, and I edited them all together, and I even time-stamped it like an absolute lunatic. So you can listen to them. I will say a lot of them have no context and are very hard to understand what we're talking about in the moment. But they're all there as one little compilation, so you can check them out.
The chair thing, the chair thing, I think that was in the middle of a segment because I had a different chair at one point and my chair was squeaky as all get out. And you yelled at me in my chair because it was so squeaky.
Oh, that's possible. It might have been a bonus, too, because I didn't do all the bonuses. Excuse me, I'm choking on water. Element of life, my ass. It might have been the bonuses. I didn't do the bonuses. That would have been way harder and more time-consuming. Because some episodes have them, some episodes don't. You can't just... Because the way I did it, I had to actually, go to each episode, because I don't keep them, because the files would be huge. So I had to go to each episode on YouTube and literally record with OBS the opening. So it would have been way harder to do the bonus episode, the bonus stuff, too.
Yeah, that would have been a bit.
Yeah.
It would have been a bit of work.
Yeah, it already took me a full day's work to do that one just because of the recording. But yeah, so I did not do that. And then we also had Mark should make a secondary fan interaction with a small subtitle for Kev Interaction Edition. as a picture for the YouTube channel. I'll throw it his way, Kev.
It wouldn't be secondary at that point. It would be primary.
Fair enough. So I did get Phil's vote live on the air last week, which gave me the leg up. Then we received a vote via the lounge on our Discord. And that is from Seatown 1980. He also asked, where do I cast my vote for the arena? I did tell him anywhere you want, and that is true. But Seatown, if you're listening, there's also a podcast thread, which makes it a little bit easier for me to access during the show. You don't want to use it, you want to use the lounge, that's fine. Just saying. And you can, of course, put it in a comment on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, wherever. But he said, I got to give my vote to Tiny Wizard. My hope is there's a 3 seashell reference. And I don't even know if you're going to get that reference because you haven't actually seen the movie.
No, and unfortunately, and I was talking to you a little bit about this between segments, that my wife was going to vote as well for your pitch, and she had actually said to me, she's like, I don't get yours because I'd never seen the movie, and I told her, I had never seen the movie either, but I have an unreasonable knowledge of Taco Bell, so of course that has come up via that.
I'll give you the ballsiest move of the week a year for pitching a game based on a license you've never seen. I think that's pretty ballsy. That's pretty ballsy, sir.
I was more impressed that it was a double license.
It's like a twofer. Yeah. So in any case, without your wife's vote, that would have tied us up. However, Green Scar 83, the man who makes the music, decided to chime in and said, my vote has to go to Zach's game. I would love to see the John Wick universe in a game with high stakes. That said, Neil's idea was both awesome and original. I do like that everybody who votes is always very they're very nice to both of us.
Yeah.
It's always I'm definitely voting for this one, but the other one was really good. Good try. So I need to find my little notebook here and get that sucker in. So Project Parabellum takes the victory, puts me to 10, and I am within striking distance. Within striking distance, ladies and gentlemen. So it is 11 to 10. No, I'm sorry. Sorry, that's wrong. It's 11 to 9. I'm at 9, not 10. 9. It is 11 to 9. Within 2 again, Neil. Within 2 again. However, that was kind of it for Fan Interaction, man. There wasn't a lot to it this week.
Yeah, well, it's probably everybody's still in holiday mode.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to make any challenges because then we'll have 47 next week, and the person I'm referring to knows who I'm talking about.
Well, because that person knows who that person is and what you're talking about, it doesn't matter one way or another. It's like the game.
Neil, don't
You
help
just
him.
lost.
All right. Well, do you want to add anything to fan traction this year?
This year? Just this whole year?
I
I just got to
week.
plant my flag for the entire year right now.
I actually have a question I'd like to ask everybody.
Hey, go ahead.
All right. So, New Year's resolutions. People love to do them. New Year's resolutions or whatever. So I want to hear what your New Year's resolution is for gaming. What's a type of game that you want to play more, that you're going to try to play more? What's a type of game that you maybe play too much of and you want to play less of? I want to hear your New Year's gaming resolution. What do you think about that, Neil?
Very interesting.
I know, it's
I already
topical.
have mine on the top of my head.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I don't even have mine. I ask questions without knowing the end. I have no foresight here. All right. So so that wraps up fan traction. We want to move to our first talking point?
Sure.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right. So that brings us to our first talking point ahead of schedule. Let's see how fast we can ruin that. And you know what? I'm going to hand this right over to Neil because this was Neil's brainchild. I really love it. I'm excited about it because it's something that we don't have to fight about. So, Neil, take it away. Explain what we're about to do.
All right. So, basically, this isn't a hyper original idea, but I think it's a fun one. What we're going to do this year is we are going to make predictions on what we think this year in gaming is going to be. So Zach and I are going to make 6 predictions. 4 of them are going to be pretty normal or interesting, I would say. 2 of them are going to be crazy, wild, out there, wish / there's no way it could happen, but it would be crazy if it did. But we are going to follow a little bit of rules. So no like guaranteed shoe in, I called them predictions, such as like, oh, the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 isn't coming out this year, or this game that's been announced that's going to come out this year is going to get delayed.
Right.
That's kind of the low-hanging fruit.
Well, I do have like one delay, but I don't think anything that I'm about to do is a dull one. So I would really love it if when I do it, if you want, I have a couple of backups. So if you think it's a no dull, I'll just take it off and I'll let you be the judge.
Yeah, and we did also as well, just in case like any of the predictions that I make kind of fall into that realm, because it's hard to skirt some of these without like having a reasonable objection to some of them. I also have backups as well.
Okay.
So rumors are fair game, and as long as it's like tangible, like there's been lots of rumor of something, not just like, oh, I saw one article one time that said X, Y, and Z. I mean, you can go ahead and make that prediction if you want, but you very well could be throwing away one of your predictions.
Okay.
And we need to be as specific as possible with some of these, because just given the nature of guessing some of this stuff, it could be very broad and nebulous.
Well, and that's what I tried to do. I tried to, like, even the ones that are kind of like no duh-y, I tried to get very like specific with the criteria of them, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I kind of did the same with mine too. I'm really curious to see how our lists turn out here. So you know what? I'll let you start off.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna start with the one that could be the most controversially like no duh. So I think if any one of them you're gonna like boot, it'll be this one.
Okay.
So I am predicting that Halo Infinite is delayed, and it will be delayed all the way till 2022.
I mean,
right now it is announced for the release of its anniversary or its 10-year anniversary or whatever, which I think is very which is a little bit more set in stone, and it's a full year off. But I don't think this thing is coming out until 2022.
You know what? I'll let that one stay.
Okay.
Because I would agree with you. I think it's going to get delayed, but given the fact that it's set for a release on an anniversary after it's already been
Right.
pushed back a year after everything
That's
else.
why I didn't
My-
think it was no duh. That was
Yeah.
my only defense, honestly, about it.
Microsoft would be in a world of trouble if they delayed it again to 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they're going to. I think it's going to get delayed till 2022.
All right, so I'm going to go into the next one, or in my first one, that is. I'm going to say that the Metroid Prime trilogy is coming to the Switch.
Ooh.
There have been rumors of it floating around for a while now, for 2 years almost. Outside of Breath of the Wild 2, we have no idea what Nintendo is working on outside of a Metroid game, and it's been so long since we've had a new mainline entry, let alone a remake of a Metroid game, the Metroid 2 remake for the 3DS back in 16, 17, something like that, I think it was.
Right.
I think it's high time that Samus makes her way over to the Switch.
I think that is a good one. But personally, I think I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened. I'm not a Metroid
Same.
fan, but like Nintendo Switch's MO is to, I mean, they've released some new good games. I'm not saying they haven't, but they have a lot of stock in taking old games, repackaging them, and re-releasing them on Switch, so that you can have them in that kind of ecosystem. And so I'm kind of surprised that these really big, well-known hits haven't gotten that treatment yet. And
Yeah.
it would make a lot of sense for them to actually have it already done and be saving it for this year, just because they don't have a ton of stuff announced coming out this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Although, if you're done with your prediction, it's a perfect segue to my next prediction.
Ooh, interesting. And I'm starting to I'm kind of thinking that you might have one of mine.
I was very afraid we had duplicates. All
right, go ahead with it.
There is no release date set for it, but I do believe that we are going to get a surprise 3-month release window announcement for Breath of the Wild 2 this year. I think towards fall, maybe towards end of summer, kind of around that E3 time, they're going to basically say, hey, let's show you some new Breath of the Wild 2 stuff. And they're going to show it, and then they're going to be like, oh, and guess what? It's out in 90 days.
Okay, so that was going to be my next one.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man.
No, because we can still keep it. We can still keep both of ours.
Okay.
Mine is Breath of the Wild 2 is going to get a release date this year. However, it won't be launching until 2022.
Ooh, okay. All right. So we're really going to be... when they talk about, like... you're going to see Breath of the Wild information. We are going to be watching with bated
We're going to
breath.
be watching so hard. It's going to be the pizza bet all over again.
It's going to be like, oh my God, it's got to be one or the other.
I hope yours is the one that's right. But I also have a sneaking suspicion that mine could be. Like,
here's the thing,
it's
though.
going to come out in 2022, but it'll be like January.
I think that both of these are logical ideas. Like, I'm not going to like take anything away from yours. The justification behind mine is Nintendo has been all about the 90-day releases with Switch. There has been almost nothing that has gone a full year from its announcement. Like Paper Mario, boof, it was just out. 3D All-Stars, out. Mario 35, out. Like, I mean, like even like a lot of the other big releases were already in the fires for Wii U, but like you see what I'm saying? Like a lot of their stuff with the Switch has been like, hey, here's a thing, and it's out in a couple of days, you know? So like I'm very interested to see, like that's my thing, is I feel like we've seen enough of this game to know what it is. I think they're ready to drop it on our heads.
See, my line of thinking with it kind of subscribes to back when Breath of the Wild was first announced. It was announced, then they're like, okay, here's a release window. Oh, well, it got delayed. I think it got 1 or 2 very large delays before it finally came out. Granted, they had to build an entire new engine for the game.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that. And they're using, from what we know, the same engine for Breath of the Wild too. But I don't know. I feel like because Breath of the Wild had such a crazy high attachment rate for these consoles that they are going to hyper polish the crap out of this game.
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to take that much work, though, because I think we're going to be seeing very much of, like, I mean, not very much. Like, the story will probably be different, but I think they're going to be using, like, all the assets are already there.
Assets, yeah.
Like, everything they need for that game is already in their hands. They just have to put it in a different order. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, and that's not trying to take away from it. It's still going to be a good game on its own, I'm sure. It's just, I feel like that coupled with the fact that, like, you're right, that original Breath of the Wild had a lot of delays. But since Switch has released, has there been any delays that you can think of? I can't think of one delay for a Switch game since Switch's release that was published by Nintendo. Like, everything since Switch has been released has been, hey, here's a thing, have a thing. Like, nothing has been, and there's been rumors, there's been a lot of be like, oh, they're doing this, we know they're doing this, when are they going to talk about doing this? But, like, there's no, like, this is a thing and then we're delaying it. I can't remember one, and I'm not saying there isn't one, it just might be my memory failing, but...
Yeah, no, I honestly, I don't think, I agree. I don't think that there's been anything that has had a delay.
Right, other than Metroid Prime.
Switch. Well, that's true.
A different story.
That's a whole nother
that's kind of its, that's kind of its own mess.
Oh, wait till we get to odds and ends.
I've got a long odds and ends, but we'll get to it. I only have one, and it's long.
So ours kind of overlapped there. So go ahead and go on with your next one.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, my next 2 normal ones, probably the rest of mine, you won't have. I'm positive. Those first 2 were the only ones that I was scared we were going to overlap on. My next prediction is Anthem 2.0, the much rumored, the much talked about, will actually release this year, and it will release as a free update instead of a paid-for DLC or paid-for sequel. And that's how BioWare and EA is going to make up for Anthem in the first place. They're going to drop this big release. They're going to have this free update. And I'm actually going to go one step further and say there will be some kind of mechanic for you to play for free, at least for a little bit. Whether it goes into Games Pass or some other thing, there will be some way for them to get you into that ecosystem to experience that game all over again.
Well, it is on Game Pass because when the EA stuff got added over there, Anthem was one of those things that showed up.
I forgot about. Well, yeah, it is via EA Play. I wasn't thinking about the EA Play added stuff. That's my bad. That's my mistake.
But
I forgot that you could. But that's only on Games Pass Ultimate. I mean, this thing will go. There will be some way. Like, I don't know that it'll be completely free, but there will be some way for them to get you into it for free.
The only, like, I am down for everything that you just said coming to pass, but they have not, they showed us a little bit of art.
Yep.
And that's it. Like,
yeah, but
I mean,
supposedly they've been working on this for 2 years now.
Yeah. And it just makes me wonder. I mean, at this point, with the Series X, it could make sense, via not necessarily backward compatibility because of how Microsoft runs their console this generation. I mean, it's an easy update to make it a next-gen game.
Yeah.
Whereas PlayStation, it's a little bit more difficult with the backwards compatibility. So I could see that being a thing, but it's just so strange that they've given us zero, not even
honestly
quick gameplay or a video update.
Right. It's strange. They have done a couple of screenshots, man, just so you know. There's
been more than just that art.
Yeah, there's been more than the art. They've actually done some screenshots of the new weapon setup, as well as they've got a new skill tree, which they never had before, and new build outs for the javelins. So there is proof of work there. It's not anywhere near what I'd have liked to see at this point, but I think, and look, I might be giving them too much credit. I really might, but I think what they did was they hit it so hard that they kind of let it fade from everybody's mind. And then when they come out, they're going to come out strong because everybody's kind of forgotten about them. There's a new mess. There's a new trash fire right now that everybody's worried about. And I think when they come out, they're going to be like, look, here's the game. And then they're going to do something to like get everybody back on their sides. Like, hey, you can play for free for now or something like that. Or you can play, there's free trial for 30 hours or something like that. Like they're going to try and do something like that to get people into this ecosystem again and get them back on this, because at this point they have to justify having an entire team still on that game.
Right.
And if it doesn't come out this year, it's not coming out ever. Like,
right. Yeah,
at that point,
absolutely.
just make a sequel because you're way past the mark. Like, they have to do it this year. Like, this is the last year they have to do it. So that's why I'm saying it comes out. Anthem 2.0 surprise releases this year. It will be a free update, and there will be some kind of mechanism to get people back in. I don't want to say that it'll be free to play because I think that would piss off anybody who paid for it in the first place. Yeah. I mean, unless you could give those people something special. You know what I mean? Like,
I think even if they gave them something special, I'd be upset.
I mean, yeah, I don't know that I would be, and I paid for it twice. So, like, I don't know if I'd be upset, but I think that, like, I would want to see something happen for them, but they've got to do something drastic to get people to see that it's a good game again. You know?
Right.
So that's my next prediction. You're up, buddy.
All right. So my next one is going to be pretty concise and to the point. Assuming that it ends this year, I think Epic's going to lose that court case against Apple.
Ooh. Okay.
It resumes this year. I'm pretty sure they're going to lose it. There's so much evidence showing that they are basically in the wrong. Removing Apple's and even Google's, business tactics for making money on their platform from the equation. It's been a long-standing thing so far. It's never been deemed like illegal or like anti-consumerist or anything like that. I think Epic literally, as we've seen, wanted to pick a fight to make headlines and reinvigorate interest, and in doing that opened up a whole can of worms that they weren't expecting, and they're not ready for that fight, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I don't know how this is going to hurt us, but it's going to hurt the consumer somehow. Like
it is. Yeah, no, it is. I covered it in an odds and ends a while ago, but one of the judges that was on the case has said that this case can have sweeping implications for online platforms across the board.
Right.
So, I mean, they picked a fight that's going to domino all the stuff throughout, everything that we know of on digital platforms.
Right.
All right. So you should your last.
This
normal,
should be my
regular
last
one?
normal one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. My last normal one is this, and it's actually a little bit crazy, but I think it's gonna happen. So, Monster Hunter Rise is about to come out in February. In March. I actually think we're going to get another Monster Hunter game, and it will be early 2022, like February or March, just like Rise, and it will be Monster Hunter World 2. I think that they've been working on that for a while, in secret, obviously, but Monster Hunter World is wrapped up. It's not getting any, like, big story chunk updates anymore, and they've already made it very clear that Monster Hunter Rise, while it looks a lot like Monster Hunter World, they are two different teams working on those two games, which means that the Monster Hunter World team is still working on Monster Hunter World. And I think that, Monster Hunter World was the highest grossing game for Capcom in their entire history. And that's actually a fact. I'm not just talking out my butt. So I think Monster Hunter World 2, we're primed and ready for it. They have an easy time doing stuff with assets, and I think we're going to see that early 2022.
Normally, I would say that you're crazy, but given the fact that Monster Hunter Rise is going to be a Switch exclusive, Nintendo has a long history of having spin-off games within a series on their platform while the new mainline entry is on other platforms.
Yep.
So I think that there could be something to that.
Well, and Monster Hunter World came out in 2017, so we've had plenty of time in between. It feels like it's newer because of all the awesome updates they've done to this game. But the other thing that Capcom and the Monster Hunter World team kind of understand about gaming nowadays that a lot of other companies, CD Projekt Red, don't quite understand, and that is you need to make a good game, not necessarily a good-looking game. And the Monster Hunter World, they just make a game that's good. It's got decent graphics, and they use the assets over and over again, but they use it in new, cool, colorful ways. And because of that, they can make a good, not buggy game relatively quickly without anybody having a problem with it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I think we're gonna get a surprise announcement for that, and it'll be released early 2022, or at least the announcement will say it's coming out early 2022.
All right. So I'm gonna go into my last regular one.
Okay.
But this, I don't know. This might be one that could be seen as kind of crazy. I don't know. I think Sony is going to unveil a new subscription service that is going to be considered a true competition for Game Pass. Not what they have included with the PlayStation Plus right now.
Okay.
That PlayStation Plus collection thing there. That's a whole bunch of last-gen games. I think that they are going to start talking about PS5 games on the service, or like newer games, like they're gonna just spitball and like they're gonna do the next gen update for Last of Us Part 2 and it's only available on this, and then like Spider-Man Miles Morales, the PS5 version, is only going to be on this. Because when they originally were they were asked questions about their subscription service that they just rolled out, the Plus collection, I think. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
I don't remember what it is.
They said, oh, well, we have no interest on putting our new releases out there on a subscription service like this. But whenever Microsoft acquired Bethesda, they changed their tune real quick. I forget who it was, but I believe it was an exec at Sony had said something along the lines of they are investigating, possible answers to Game Pass. So, I mean, they've said before that they don't want to do something like that, but at the same time, say what?
Do you want my opinion on this, or?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Look, I would love to see it for Sony people, honestly, and I also, as good as Games Pass is, it will start to get bad if it doesn't have any competition. But the thing that bothers me is Sony has shown a nonstop lack of forward thinking and trend management. They are very staunch, and I know I'm going to get some arsenic steel hate on this. I don't mean to. I don't have anything against Sony. It's just their mindset is we're going to do a thing our way, and we don't care what anything says, and that's why they've been so slow on backwards compatibility. That's why there's so many weird things about the PlayStation 5 that don't make it as compatible. I think that they kind of just they decide their own trends, and that's what they want to do. I feel like it's going to be very hard to convince that company to do anything differently, and they've never shown any interest in Games Pass, although you are right, they said they're investigating it, but I feel like that was a hey, everybody shut up about it sort of response.
I think at this point, though, Game Pass is becoming such I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it is almost mandatory at this point.
It's a beast.
to get it with an Xbox. Like, they can't afford to ignore it.
Well, and
And
that's
I
what
don't think that they're going to ignore it. I think even if it doesn't happen this year, maybe if it's next year or the year after, when there's a bit more PS5 games in the loop of
Right.
in the console generation, then maybe they'll really start looking into that. Sure, it might cost more. Sure, it might this, that, and the other thing. It might be more limited in scope, but I think that they have to at this point.
I think
do
we'll get
something.
more third-party competitors to the subscription ideals that before we get Sony on board. Honestly, they're just so slow about this stuff. They really are. They only do new stuff when they're absolutely forced into it. When they gave us backwards compatibility on this generation, it felt like the entire time they were talking about it, it was like, yeah, we're going to give it to you, fine. You know, it was like they were backed into a corner and they had to. Like, I feel like they are so behind on that stuff. Well, not even behind. It's almost like they see it and they're just like, nope, we'll do it when we absolutely have to. And that's like, it sucks. I don't like that. But Games Pass is a beast. The other problem is I don't feel like Sony wants to commit to the ideology that Xbox has, and that's the problem. Xbox does not make Xbox consoles. Xbox makes Games Pass and ways for you to get on Games Pass. That's how they do this. That's how they're doing that's their entire model now. The console for Xbox is not the Series X or the Series S. That's the way you play the console. The console is Games Pass. That's what it is. And until Sony commits like that, I don't think they're ever going to be able to compete with Games Pass.
True.
Nonetheless, though, interesting prediction. I'd be really interested. If it does happen, I'd be really happy for Sony people.
So let's get a little crazy and out there.
Okay.
What's one of your crazy predictions?
Okay. All right. You want my really crazy one or my kind of crazy one?
Either or.
All right. I'll go kind of crazy and save my really crazy for the end.
Okay.
Kind of crazy. I think Microsoft will finally buy Sega. The rumor has gone around forever and ever and ever and ever, and everybody said, no. Sega will never do it. But I think they will. I think they'll finally nut up. They'll buy Sega, and they will say to Sega, because everybody said the big problems is Sega is so in the Sony ecosystem with a lot of their games. I think they're going to do exactly what they did with Bethesda. They're going to buy them, and they're going to be like, put your games on Sony. We don't care. We're going to make money off of them either way. But I think they finally get Sega, and we finally get some really, really cool stuff out of that. I think that's my crazy prediction because that'll never happen. But
that would be interesting. The only thing at this point, I mean, I don't think it's the only thing. There's
a lot of things.
That was the wrong turn of phrase. It's just, I don't know. I don't think that would make waves. I mean, it could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. If it did happen,
that's not crazy enough.
No, I'm not saying that it's not crazy enough. I think it could be a thing that could totally happen, but I don't know. Like Sega, if you said 10 years ago that Microsoft is gonna buy Sega, I would be like crawling up the walls, screaming like, "Oh my god, that's insane!" But I mean, what does Sega really have much at all anymore?
Well, they got Phantasy Star Online 2, which is a beast, man. Whether you want to care to admit it or not, that thing makes tons of money, and it is only available on the Xbox console. They also have some other stuff. I mean, they've got Sonic. I mean, look, Sonic games suck now, but I'd like to see them good, and if Microsoft's influence would help make those better, I'm all for that.
I mean, I think Sonic's problem is it's just a game that doesn't really translate that well to the 3D.
Well, and I think, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd agree with you on that. I think that you've got to get somebody in there who understands Sonic better than the people who, because the problem is,
better than Sonic Team anymore.
You are, because the problem with Sonic Team, we're going to get on a tangent about Sonic, but the problem with 3D Sonic is everybody looks at 3D Sonic like it has to be what it is in the 2D, which is a platformer. The problem is 3D platformers, you can't be fast in 3D platformers. You can't go anywhere near as fast as the 2D platform. You just can't. What you need to
Right.
make that is an open world game without the platforming, so he can just run around. Like, that's what you fucking need. And you need a good battle system and a relatively decent story, but you need him to just be able to like have a whole planet that he could just speed around. There have been some like screen tests of people putting Sonic like in super speed and Unreal Engine. Like,
I've seen those. Yeah.
that's what you need. You need people to stop thinking about it as a jump on things head game and start thinking about it. This is going to sound crazy, but more of like a Skyrim. Like, that's what you need. You need them to stop thinking about it as a Mario game and start thinking about it as an open world game.
It almost sounds like you're talking to Melissa right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Watch Prelude.
This is very interesting that that's coming up right now. We'll get into it later. What that's my. What's one of your crazy ones?
Okay, so my crazy ones, mine are bananas. So I guess get ready for this. My first one, I think that Cyberpunk did so much damage. I mean, it did so much damage that I am an old individual who listens to news podcasts, and ABC News, that one of their podcasts covered what happened. Well, they didn't fully cover, but they did a story on what happened with Cyberpunk, and they brought up the point that, you know what, we have no recourse whenever you buy a video game like any other like thing that you buy in a store. If it doesn't function as advertised, whatever, you take it back. If it's broken, you take it back. You can't do that with games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that with what happened with Cyberpunk, there's going to be a movement to set a standard across the board for returning games or like returning game licenses for digital purchases. More so than Steam's 2-hour limit. I think there's going to be, will be something along the lines with Steam. They might kick it back up to like 5 hours or something along those lines. Or if you have only owned the game for 2 days, 3 days, or something like that, you can go return it to your digital storefront or your physical store. Would that ever happen? I mean, I'd crap a brick if it did happen, but I
think that's a great pick for a crazy thing, because I think that, God, we need that. We need that in the industry so much. I don't think that there's any way in hell it happens this time, but we need it so bad.
Yeah, definitely.
And as far as Steam, they should just make it a percentage. They should make every game like tell you the amount of hours that you can play this game for max, and then make it 10% of that. Because 10% of Cyberpunk, I could have still returned it, you know? At the same time, if I play a 2-hour game, I only get 2 minutes. Like, and I know that seems small, but it's a 2-hour game. You know what I mean? So, like, I almost feel like just make it a percentage of the runtime, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Because
I
that
agree
was
with it,
Steam's big issue that they had. People would buy smaller games,
right,
beat them within that period of time, and then get a refund on it.
Right.
Like, you can't. It's not a one size fits all fix.
Right. I think that's one of the big problems with the game industry is they look at everything like it's a one size fits all fix. Like in the game industry, I keep saying this. I say it on every review. The game industry is so subjective and so crazy and so deep that every problem has to have 6 or 7 solutions. You can't just look at it like, we're just going to do this and it'll fix everything, you know?
Yeah. All right. So hit me with your craziness.
We did not plan this, everybody out there, but you have perfectly segued into my second craziness somehow. We've done this twice during this. I don't know. We didn't plan this. We didn't talk about what our ones were before this, so this is kind of crazy. But I predict that CD Projekt Red will fold this year. They will declare bankruptcy or something to the like. Hopefully they won't just shut the doors. They don't want people to be out of work. But under the weight of the law of this lawsuit, the class action lawsuit, which I 100% think they're going to lose, especially now that they have announced that they're actually going to fight it, which is crazy. You should be trying to settle as fast as humanly possible because you were wrong. And the fact that while they made one of the highest selling games ever, it probably has one of the highest refund percentage out there right now. I think under that financial weight, they're going to have to declare bankruptcy, and we will never see a Cyberpunk game again, especially since every one of these DLCs for CD Projekt Red is going to have to be free. It is the only way they can garnish any public support for them whatsoever is make all these DLCs free. So they're not going to make any money on that. They have no microtransaction system in place. They're going to be done. And in keeping with that, there will never be a multiplayer for CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk. It will never happen. That multiplayer thing that was planned for like late 2021, never going to happen. They won't exist.
Well, it's funny what they've already started teasing their DLC.
I know, and it's free though. Like they made sure to point out that it's free.
I just think that is a ballsy move.
It's real ballsy
to start teasing your DLC for a game that you're literally getting sued for releasing because it was not up to snuff.
The problem is they have made themselves a company with that's all they have. What else would they tease? They have no other games. They have nothing else in the pipeline. There is nothing else coming out. They are not a two-team company. The only thing they have to give us is more of the shit that has made us so mad that we're suing them. Like that, and that's the problem. Like that's the problem. Like it's if your gun is loaded with bullets that heal the monster, do you shoot it or not? It doesn't really matter. But I think at this point, the reason they're hyping it is they're putting that word in front of it to try and get some support back, and that's free. And I think they've got to put that word in front of everything now, and they don't have the money for this. They just don't. I know they made a ton off the release, but if the class action lawsuit actually is successful, and I think there's plenty of evidence for it to be, they won't be able. I mean, I'm sure at least half those copies were refunded or in the process of being refunded. Like, where are they going to get the financial stability to stop it,
And that there, honestly, I think once this suit finishes, I think it's going to set a precedent for even my previous one, because that would be the first major actual court case litigation for somebody like demanding a refund and like being held to task for a deceptive launch.
Right.
And I think that would open the door for talks to people possibly, implementing some sort of guidelines.
I think at the very least, if CD Projekt Red burns, I think other companies will look at it and say, even from a cold snake-like position, like, we can't do that or we will get killed. You know what I mean? Like, do we have the money to fight something like that? And I think that might open the door for at least possibly this not to happen as severe again.
Yes.
So what's your final crazy one, man?
All right. So my final crazy one, I don't know. This has been talked about before within the industry, and maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. But given the fact that over the past year, between the news stories about Anthem's crunch and CD Projekt Red's crunch and all of these other companies just crunch all the time, I think that there's finally going to be a movement for unionization within the industry. I think it needs to happen because these people, these jobs, basically, they have them and are pushed into circumstances, not always, but in a lot of instances pushed into these circumstances where it's basically, I have to do what my boss tells me and work all this extra time, or else I'm going to get fired, or I'm going to work myself to death to the point that like I have mental issues and like PTSD in some cases from that work.
Right.
I think that it is a problem that needs addressing, whether or not one believes that crunch is an issue as much much of an issue that I believe it is. It's still a problem in one sector or another.
Yeah, I think that game developers definitely need a better way to speak out as an industry. Again, I think every industry in the world has crunch. We've talked about this before. I think
Yeah.
though that there is an acceptable limit of crunch. There's an acceptable amount to be thrown at you. There's an acceptable. There's also kind of the thing that bothers me the most about crunch in the video game industry over other industries is the lack of knowledge that it's coming. And I think that's what bothers me so much about the game industry crunch is especially with all the delays and stuff. They drop these insane crunches on them out of nowhere, and that kind of bothers me a little bit.
And even in some cases where it's like absolutely unnecessary.
Right.
Like
Right.
CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
There was the big news story about, we're implementing mandatory crunch after we said that we weren't going to do it. We're really sorry, but
Right.
it's just to push the game out the
Right.
door. And
this
it was
after
going
this
on.
was delayed 3 times, which you would have thought that the mandatory crunch came at those times.
Yeah, and there was already crunch happening, and then they crunched on top of crunch, and then we see what happened with with Cyberpunk's launch,
Right.
and it led people within the company to actually ask its board,
Right.
what was that crunch for? Like
Right.
it's unnecessary. Like
I-
busy periods in different jobs,
Right.
that's totally different. It's part of the job, you're getting it. But like you said, if it comes out of nowhere, or if your boss just decides like,
Right.
well, this
Right.
work normally takes this long to be done, but we don't want it to take this long. We want it to take a half that amount of time, and
Right.
you all have to work more. I'm going to go home and see my family. That's not cool.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that, like I said, I think every industry has those busy times, has crunch built in. But at the same time, there is a level of it just speaks to more of a level of corporate greed in the games industry specifically that is worrisome. That it's just kind of like evident of the poisonous system. I will say I have worked in a couple of jobs in my life. Being an older gentleman with unions, I don't always feel like they are the answer to things like this. But I think that something needs to happen so that, I mean, even if the developers are still working crunch, something needs to happen so that they get a better voice in it. I like there's other moments like with the whole Gearbox shorting their people their bonuses, which was built into their pay structure. Like stuff like that happens, and that's the kind of stuff that I like all those things. Like they need a better way to like combat them, I guess.
Yeah.
So okay, well I think that's it, right?
Yeah. So what we're going to do with these, we're going to archive this. It's going to be up on the channel. So, I mean, I guess whatever, that's our archival. And we're going to, at the end of the year, revisit these and see which one of these came true, and do a little scoring system. And this is actually going to segue into our little fantasy game
Industry thing.
league.
Yeah.
So
get that going.
that's just to whet the appetite. But yeah.
Yeah, it should be fun. All right. Well, you want to move on to the next talking point then?
Well, given how long the time is right now, I don't know if there's going to be a second talking point.
We should only be at like 40 minutes, man.
No.
We're at
No,
like
sir.
50 minutes, 50 on the dot. You said 8
50.
minutes before we started this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
50
we talked
minutes.
42. We're
I
an
mean-
hour and 20-minute show usually. Still gives us a half an hour.
Oh,
I
mean,
can
all
I
right.
can transition mine into an odds and ends though. It'll just be a little bit of longer odds and ends. I don't have any other odds and ends, so that's fine.
Yeah, I have a relatively normal amount of odds and ends. I love that we're having this conversation. Like,
Yeah, we
literally.
should really have paused it and not have this on the show, but that's fine.
Too late now.
Yeah, this is how the bread is made, everybody. All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to odds and ends. We are going to. I only have one, but it's a little ranty. Do you want me to start with it, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I got to see a movie very recently, and that is called Monster Hunter.
Oh, I'm so glad that this was a thing. Oh man, so I shared with you what IGN gave it, but I want to know what you thought about it.
I probably would have given it lower.
Really?
Okay, so here's the thing. What bothered me so much about it is like it just totally misses the mark with what Monster Hunter is. So one of the coolest things about this is if you want to see like the weapons and the armor and the monsters like on a screen, like they do that really well. And that's what's so confusing about this movie is like how, because the guy who wrote it must have like played this game to get that so perfectly to then miss the boat on what the movie was about was crazy. It's a horror movie for the first 15 minutes.
Oh, geez.
It's even filmed like a horror movie. It's a horror movie. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but like people die in horrifying ways for the first 50 minutes of this movie. Like, horrifying ways. And like, I was just sitting there like, dude, I play Monster Hunter World. Like, I get knocked out by the monster, and cute little kitty cats put me in a cart and take me back to the campfire. Like, this is not Monster Hunter. Like, there is some serious moments in Monster Hunter, but it's very tongue-in-cheek, and it's very joyful. It's a joyful experience. Now, I'm not saying it has to be that cutie, but, like, this was ridiculous. There's multiple points where people get eaten by giant spiders.
Giant spiders.
Giant spiders. From the inside out sometimes, Neil. From the inside. Like, it's horrifying for the first, 50 minutes. Like, honestly, I watched the opening scene, and I would just started chanting in my head, keep an open mind, keep an open mind, keep an open mind, keep an open mind. And it's just so bothersome because then it starts to kind of get into the Monster Hunter stuff, and it's like 30 minutes to the end. There's so many scenes where, like, it looked like the writer just was playing the video game and was like, this is cool, but I really want to see it fight a jet. Let me write a scene about that. Like, it's crazy. There's a whole plot point about this movie where, like, she's, like, transferred over to the other dimension, to the Monster Hunter World dimension, which, if you read Monster Hunter lore, is kind of confusing to start with because Monster Hunter lore is, like, that's the future of our world in a lot of ways. So, like, it's kind of weird. It's already kind of contradictory there. But, like, the guy is like, hey, is like, I don't want your world to come over to our world because it'll be like the end of us. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, in the opening scene of the movie, Diablos levels a platoon of heavily armored military Humvees with chain guns, 50-millimeter cannons, and rocket launchers without taking damage. What are you worried about? Like, you watch Rathalos at one point decimate the U.S. military, and you're like, what's the problem here? What's the problem? The other thing is they got Ron Perlman to play the Admiral, which you won't know this, but that's the worst casting that has ever existed. Plus, Ron Perlman very clearly didn't take this movie seriously at all and just shows up as Ron Perlman, basically, with a blonde wig on. There's a point. One of the kind of cuter but also kind of manufactured points of the movie is that the people from our world speak our language, but the people in their world speak their own language, which is weird because in the video games they just speak English, but whatever. But then you meet Ron Perlman, and he just talks perfect English like Ron Perlman. And, like, there's a line where the character's like, well, your people have been here before through the portal. And she's like, oh, so that's how you speak our language? I was like, that's the explanation of why he speaks perfect, eloquent English? Okay. Like, it was weird because it was like it was so much like highs and lows because you would see like an insect glaive and you'd be like, that looks exactly like an insect glaive. And then the character would do like the springboard move that launches you into air for mounting on the insect glaive, and you'd be like, that's the exact springboard move. Wow, that's so cool. And then all of a sudden, an army man would be eaten by spiders, and you're like, what movie is this? I don't understand what I've paid to go see. It's just so frustrating. So frustrating.
That kind of reminds me of the Resident Evil movies. Oddly enough, also starring Mila Jovovich.
Well, it's directed and written by the same guy too.
Right? Yeah. Wes Anderson.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like
not Wes Anderson. That'd be a very different movie.
I'm sorry.
He does Royal Tenenbaums. That would be.
It's the W. I always do that because of the W.
Rathalos would be way snarkier.
Yeah. But we've talked about this before. It's just like there's the game movies, when they make these game movies, like there's nothing wrong with taking the artistic, liberties to turn it into your own thing, but you have to keep what made it in the first place. Right. Like the Resident Evil movies. I mean, it kind of ish. Like the first movie was the only one that kind of like stuck. No, I want to say the second one kind of stuck more to the kind of overall story. But like Resident Evil is a survival horror, very tense, but the movies are just balls to the wall action, metal music,
right?
Like not anything. Like if you take them aside from the actual game, just slapped a different name on it, it would be a totally serviceable movie series.
Right.
But the fact that it's trying to be something else is what takes me out of it.
Right.
And I'm sure that's what you felt watching this movie. It was
so weird because he got the world so right. Like you get to see the Wildspire Waste and all the like creatures there, and you're like, this is it. This is the game I played. And then it would just be like surrounded by insanity, and you're just like, why is this here? I don't understand. It's very confusing. It was very confusing. So.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I was hoping that was going to be a good movie for you.
I mean,
and
I will say I did have fun watching, the monsters and the weapons. That's very cool. It's the only place to see those things, and probably the only place you're ever going to see those things. But yeah, it's not a good movie. It's a really bad movie. And don't take your kids. Don't take your kids. Like, serious. There was a family behind me, and the kids were crying. And like, you could tell the dad was like, it's just cute cats that cook you food before you fight some like big dragons. What happened here? Yeah, it was terrifying. Okay, so go ahead with normal odds and ends.
All right, so normal odds and ends. So this first thing here, it's really weird. Before we decided to do the prediction thing, this news broke, and I actually was going to make it one of my predictions until I found out that this was news. There are rumors floating around that Ubisoft's Ubisoft Plus subscription could be the next addition to Game Pass.
Wow. That would be huge.
That would be massive. It sucks too, because I was literally the other day when you and I first were kind of talking about this, I was like, man, this is definitely one, like I could see this happening because Microsoft is making those kind of moves. But I mean, there are just rumors floating around about it right now that there are talks to bring Ubisoft Plus to the Game Pass subscription. I am very curious, though, how many more additions to Game Pass do they make before they decide to raise the price?
And that's really where the competition needs to come in at some point, because that's what we're gonna start dealing with is higher and higher prices.
Honestly, though, like I feel like where we're at now, given the fact that we have EA, the EA access, that we have Bethesda games and everything like that, it is a steal. I feel like I am literally stealing from Microsoft.
Yeah, it's really good.
If they were like, hey, we got to bump the price up like $4, I would be like, cool, totally 100% fine. Go ahead and take my $4.
Yeah, I'm
because
totally
they're
with
just
you.
giving you so much.
Netflix just raised their prices to almost $19 a month, and I'm like, dude, everything you had is on HBO Max now. What am I paying for? The Crown? I don't want to pay $19 a month for the Crown. Like, with this, it's like they really give you a lot of value for that, and like I said, man, that's their goal is they're not taking they're taking market share away with software. That's what they're doing. There's going to be a point where Sony's going to be so far behind that they're just going to have to put Games Pass on their consoles.
That would be.
I mean, I'm not kidding. That is Microsoft's goal has never been to destroy Sony. It's to be on Sony and make money off Sony. Just like every other company. They want to make money off the companies that they're with. They don't want to destroy them. They don't want to beat them. They don't want to outsell them. They want to make money off them. That's what they want, and that's their outlook, and that's why they don't care how much this console sells. They don't. They just want to get you on Games Pass because they know that Games Pass is the most important thing in gaming right now.
Yeah. So to continue actually with Ubisoft news, Ubisoft has partnered with a company called Limitless, which specializes in prosthetics for those in need.
I saw this.
Yeah, and they are going to be making an Assassin's Creed Odyssey bionic arm. The company has also done an Iron Man arm, Halo arm, and a Johnny Silverhand arm as well. This is really cool.
Yeah, it is. I want to see what insurance covers it, but it is.
I mean, probably none, but
Right.
still, though, like
Right.
how that's
I don't think
just
Anthem
awesome.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield covers the Johnny Silverhand arm.
Well, I got to tell you, the insurance that just started for us 2 days ago would probably cover like a stick with some string attached that you would have to operate with your other hand.
They call you up and be like, "Hey, could you just like take 2 twigs and make a splint? Like, just do that. We'll cover we'll cover the cost of the tape. What's that? 79 cents? We'll cover that."
Yeah, pretty much. So mentioned Metroid Prime 4 earlier. Apparently, placeholder release dates have appeared for Metroid Prime 4 through messages for those who pre-ordered the game via Amazon. And according to these messages, the placeholder date is January 2023.
And it's a placeholder date.
And that's a placeholder date.
That game
Of
isn't
course.
even going to make the Switch's lifespan.
That's the thing. That's the thing is they've already said that the Switch right now is about midlife in the console. It could be like how Nintendo likes to do those cross-generational things. They'll do it on the Switch and the Switch 2, whatever that winds up being.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll do it like that.
I'm really interested to see what they follow the Switch up with because I almost feel like they don't need to follow the Switch up with anything, especially with cloud gaming now. Like the way
Yeah.
they're leveraging that, like I feel like just make Switches forever, and when you can make them a little bit better, make the Switches a little bit better. Like, why make a new system? I don't even understand. Like, Switch is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else that you can do
Oh,
beyond what they're doing.
Right.
I mean,
unless you're
yeah,
gonna
you
go
can
all
be-
in and try and compete with Microsoft and Sony, and that's not,
the thing.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
do that.
That's the thing. At this point, they're so far removed, they
Right.
can't try to compete, even though, like, I'm sure they'd find some way to do it, but make there be some weird catch, like the console only turns on Wednesdays or something like that. But yeah. So Metroid Prime 4 is never coming out.
Okay, all right.
So
Sounds about right.
yeah. So one last one. Netflix is making an Elder Scrolls show. Maybe that's why they're jacking up the price of your Netflix.
No,
I
hope not.
But
it'll get 2 seasons.
I would hope that that's not the reason why they're jacking up the price of Netflix, because apparently the show's budget is $150 million a season.
That's insane. That's
Yeah,
absolutely
so-
insane. Why?
so-
Why?
So
Holy
unless
Lord.
I can close my eyes and smell a frost troll's breath, I don't know what they're going to do with this show.
That's crazy. That's absolutely a crazy amount. And what is that show even going to be about? Like, that's... you guys, like, of all the games to make stuff out of, like, why? Like, the best part about role-playing games like that is you get to play whatever you want to play, you know? The minute you put a character to it, it's not fun anymore.
You know what I think they're going to try to do? They're going to try to do some Lord of the Rings sort of deal, but it's just going to be set in Tamriel.
I mean, I'd probably watch it, but like,
I mean, I'd give it a shot, but I gave The
me.
Witcher a shot, and that was not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I got like 3 episodes in, and I liked every episode, but at the same time, I don't know that I want to go back and watch more. It's very strange for me. Very strange. But okay. All right, so that's it for odds and ends then, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show, the moment of truth, the main event. It is the Horrible Arena. What is the Horrible Arena if you have never watched? Well, first of all, you should watch or listen more. The Horrible Arena is where myself and Neil, we will pitch you a game based on pre-existing criteria that is either decided by our guest or us taking turns. Then we will pitch you the developer of the game, what the game is, and of course, who... Oh, I lost my train of thought there. What? In any case, we will pitch you the game, and then you will go to all the places and tell us which one you would spend your hard-earned money on, and then we will decide a winner next week based on those comments. Now, the pre-existing criteria, as decided by our guest last week, PhilBilly330, was an RPG. He didn't care how, he didn't care where. What would be your RPG make? So that is it. The Quantum Coin has been tossed, however. I got the win, so I will be going first. And unfortunately, I kind of started to fall into my pitch earlier, so you guys are going to hear some stuff a second time, and I apologize for that. So, my pitch, it will be produced by... Oh, crap. What was the producer? Oh, no! No, I had it written down.
Solid start.
I know. This is bad. I had it written down. And I lost it. Oh, got it. Okay. Had it on the wrong page. Sorry, guys. Starting over. It will be, of course, in conjunction with Sega, but it will be Playground Games, makers of the Forza series, and soon to be the Fable series. And what it will be is Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, what is the problem with Sonic the Hedgehog in 3D games? As I've already said in this show, it's that anybody designing a Sonic the Hedgehog 3D game tries to capture the magic of the 2D platformer. But Sonic is about speed. You cannot capture that magic with a platformer, especially in a 3D space. So what would my game be? Well, we would have a fully realized open world, like we're talking like Skyrim levels of size and scope, and Sonic would just be super fast and be able to run anywhere in it. He would be able to run to all sorts of different places, and he would be able to go to all the cities of the previous games. He would be able to go to... Metro City from the Sonic Adventure. I don't know. This would be like a remaking of Sonic Adventure. And basically what it would be is that you could just run anywhere. And that would be the coolest part about it, is that he can just run. He can just run anywhere he can. But this has got to be an RPG, so you will gain experience from combat. The combat will be real time. You will do the spin dashes and stuff, but everything will be based on leveling up. You will level up your damage. You will level up your speed. You will level up all those techniques that come to know Sonic. And we would go even more in depth on the build system. What's even more fun about this game is we're going to get his friends in there. We'll start with Knuckles and Tails, and then probably the other friends will be added as DLC. Free DLC, later time. But each one would have their own skill trees, kind of in that Borderlands vein, where you can like build up the attributes about them that you love. This will definitely be multiplayer. You'll definitely be able to play this with your friends. And you will also be able to do a fair amount of looting. He can collect shoes to upgrade his speed, gloves to upgrade his damage, all sorts of cool stuff. You can customize your Sonic, customize your Knuckles. But the main play of the game he can travel to a city, he can interact with the inhabitants of that city, and they will have side quests for him, races he can participate in, and all the ways that he can take on Robotnik and all of Robotnik's evil stuff. Nonetheless, he will progress through the game, and then you'll have all sorts of added stuff to it, like he can get a house, like all the cool like trimmings of an open world Ubisoft style game. The Playground Games brings that speed element to it because they can do that really well, but they also have Fable coming, which is an open world role-playing game. So I'm asking them to kind of put that experience together to really bring Sonic to life in the way he should be brought to life in an RPG experience. That's my pitch. Neil, you're up, buddy.
All right, so my game is going to be called Project Ocean View, and it's going to be made by Rare. Ocean View is a single-player, handcrafted open-world RPG. There would not be procedural generation in this game. You would begin by creating your character using a standard character creator, and you would pick a background. You would choose between one of two options, either an island dweller or a pirate. And each of these two aspects would affect the course of the game, just how you see it. Or it would affect how you see the events throughout the course of the game. Words. So you would see the one main story unfold from two different views. The overall story sees pirates invading an island to steal a rare jewel from a town square, which is said to have magical properties when reunited with 4 other jewels. As the island dweller, it is your hometown that has been attacked, but as a pirate, you are the one who is helping to lead the assault on the town. The story would play out primarily the same, but as you see it differently, you'll get the whole story. I typed out the same line twice somehow, and I don't know how I did that. The game would unfold throughout a vast ocean that is littered with big and small islands. Most of the large islands are the main story missions, main story beats, whereas smaller islands would contain side quests or puzzles and would have rare weapons or armor to find. All of the islands can be visited in any order. However, they would have recommended levels with enemies that might be too strong if you are at a lower level, but wouldn't be gated off from you. However, if you were to take on higher level enemies, you would get better loot drops. The combat in the ship would also be a focus alongside yourself. Your ship would be able to be upgraded and leveled up along the way, adding new weapons, defenses, and magical abilities, as well as a crew recruitment system. And the crew would be used as sort of a ability modification system, more so than an actual crew that you can take control of and give orders to. So let's say you want better navigation, you could find yourself a new captain for your ship that has a better ability in that. Maybe you want somebody who specializes in explosives to make your cannons do more damage, something along those lines. The game would also feature a treasure hunting system where the player will be able to, in the open world, overhear somebody talking in a bar about a legendary treasure, or find a map somewhere randomly on an island that they would be able to use to try to find the treasure. However, given the nature of a treasure hunt, you would have to use those context clues available to seek out that treasure, and you would not be able to physically track that mission should you decide to go on it. That way you could create your own sort of actual treasure hunt along the way. So that is my pitch, Project Ocean View.
All right, there you guys have it. 2 great pitches, though relatively not the smoothest. Nonetheless, you guys will get to go to all the places and decide the winners in all the places we're about to plug at the end of the show. But before we get to that, Neil, it is still your turn since the guest was on last week, and it would have been your turn. And you said you already had one ready. So what are we pitching next week?
Yeah, I had one ready. I still was trying to think of something else because I myself don't like going back to the well on something that we've already done, but I couldn't come up with anything.
We're at 73 episodes. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. So it's happening here. Take a property, give it to somebody else.
What?
Take a property and give it to somebody else.
Like a piece of
So,
land?
yes, literal land.
Like
Yeah, just
okay.
sign a
Like
deed
an
off and
intellectual
hand it to somebody
property.
and watch them
Okay.
build on it. It's a fun game.
Okay, so an intellectual property. So
Yes,
like Star
take-
Wars to someone other than EA or something like that.
Yes,
Oh,
so
okay.
along those lines. But now I'm just thinking like land tycoon. Yeah, write up a deed for like a square in your backyard and hand it to a homeless guy on the street and just record what happens. That's my game.
Here's your 4-foot
Hobo
patch.
campground.
Just know that if you come off that 4-foot patch, I'm gonna call the cops. All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. So, Neil, do you got anything special to plug today?
All right. Well, my terrible talk is finally up. We got that all figured out. However, there was an issue with how I did it. Apparently, Daft Punk does not like that I used some of their music for my video. So the audio on it sounds very strange. And at one point in the video, you can randomly hear a piece of the music kick in.
Yeah.
So not necessarily up to par from previous videos because of that, but I learned my lesson and I know how to change that going forward. But despite all that, the video is up, so if you want to go ahead and watch it, that'd be cool. If not, that's cool too. Honestly, we've covered a lot of what I talk about in the video over the past few weeks anyways, so
It was a good video.
yeah.
I think it's a great video.
Yeah,
think
I
it's a great
mean,
video.
it was the longest video and literally the largest video that I've done so far. It wasn't the one that I was talking about doing before. I'm going to have to just bank that one and save it for next time. It's just the cyberpunk stuff, you just can't ignore it at this point. So I had
No.
to tackle that. But
Yeah.
outside of that, Halo Infinite Road, that's a thing. Season finale is coming up. And
2 weeks.
well, I mean, it's still coming up.
Yeah.
And-
No, I was just saying 2 weeks to
Yeah,
add
in 2
to it.
weeks. But we got more Halo-y goodness coming for you as well. So I'm going to lob that one over to Zach.
Yeah, Halo Infinite War. We're probably going to be putting it out on either Tuesdays or Saturdays. It's going to be shorter seasons, but basically they're going to coincide with the Halo Infinite Road, whereas me and Neil play through the games on co-op. These we will play multiplayer, and we picked out some super fans, and of course the Foundation is in full. Philbilly's there as well. And we just do some crazy stuff in each multiplayer as we go. And we started with Halo. The whole season's recorded. The first episode should go up either this Saturday or Tuesday, probably Tuesday. And then it'll probably be a Tuesday show for about 5 weeks until we get towards the end of Halo, the second season, in which case that'll come back. So there you go. And then as far as everything else, just watch stuff. Watch stuff on the channel. We've got a couple new shows coming this year we're excited about. We're going to be doing Fantasy Game Industry at some point whenever I can get the rules together. And then OMG Wrestling's going to be coming back as soon as I can get that together. That's a much bigger beast because I've got to wrangle people that are very far away from me now, which I didn't have to do before. So it'll be more interesting. Let's put it that way. But that'll be coming. Plus, we've got a ton of other stuff we're gonna be putting in. So as usual, click the like, click the subscribe if you like us, turn the bell on. And then you can reach us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. The link will be in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. And as usual, everybody, you guys keep watching. We'll keep making them. Here we go, 2021. And we are out. Did I lose
My
you?
cat
Oh.
cat is inside the microphone.
Inside the microphone?
Yeah, I'm surprised you can't hear it.
Hi, kitty.
She cannot hear you.
Oh, okay.
She
That's
purrs though,
fine. She purrs.
so that is good.
That's all right. This is the amount of distance that I like to be from cats.
Honestly, normally whenever we're recording here, because the room that I do it in, the spare room, is where like their food and everything is.
Right.
So they usually hang out in here, and it's not often that one of them physically jumps up. Usually this one here, she'll come over and start biting at my ankles and rolling all over my feet in the middle of recording, but this time she actually wanted up.
That's funny. That's funny.